Before the world wakes up, before the noise, the pressure, and the demands begin, there is a quiet moment that decides who you are becoming. Most people sleep through it. They hit snooze, delay responsibility, and unknowingly give their future away in small pieces. But if you understand something powerful, the morning is not just the start of a day, it is the test of your character. What you do when no one is watching matters more than anything you do in public. The mornings when you feel tired, unmotivated, and uninspired are not setbacks. They are opportunities. Opportunities to prove to yourself that discipline is stronger than emotion, that commitment is deeper than comfort. If you can learn to win those difficult mornings, you won't just change your schedule. You'll change who you are. And once your character changes, everything else in your life has no choice but to follow. Most people underestimate how powerful the first hours of the day truly are. Morning is not just a moment on the clock. It is a psychological starting line. When you wake up, your mind is relatively free from distractions, stress, and outside influence. This is the moment when you are most capable of setting direction. If you begin the day intentionally, you immediately place yourself in a position of control rather than reaction. The day does not push you around as much when you decide early how you will show up. Winning the morning is not about rushing or doing everything perfectly. It is about establishing authority over yourself before the world starts demanding your attention. When you wake up late, scroll aimlessly, or rush through the first part of the day, you begin in a state of chaos. That chaos quietly follows you into your work, your conversations, and your decisions. But when you take charge early, by waking up with purpose, thinking clearly, and acting deliberately, you create order, and order produces confidence. The quality of your morning influences your emotional state. A calm, focused start reduces stress and increases patience throughout the day. When you feel rushed or behind early on, the mind carries that pressure forward, making small problems feel bigger than they are. But when the day begins with structure, your emotions stabilize. You are less reactive, less frustrated, and more thoughtful in how you respond to challenges. This emotional stability becomes one of your greatest advantages. Morning also shapes momentum. Whatever direction you move in first is the direction that tends to continue. A productive morning builds a sense of progress, and progress creates energy. When you accomplish even small things early, making your bed, reviewing your goals, planning your tasks, you send a signal to your brain that you are someone who follows through. That identity becomes powerful. You don't spend the day trying to get motivated. You simply continue the motion you already started. Another important aspect of winning the morning is mental preparation. Life does not get easier as the day goes on. Demands increase. Meetings, problems, and responsibilities pile up. If you wait until later to think clearly, you often find yourself too tired or distracted. Morning gives you the best chance to prepare mentally for what lies ahead. Taking time to reflect, read, or think about your goals strengthens your mindset before challenges appear. You don't avoid difficulty, but you face it with a stronger foundation. When you consistently start your day well, your self-respect grows. Each morning you keep a promise to yourself. No matter how small, you build trust within yourself. That trust is critical for long-term success. People often fail, not because they lack ability, but because they lack confidence in their own follow-through. A strong morning routine quietly repairs that. It teaches you that you can rely on yourself, and that belief carries into every area of life. Winning the morning also improves decision-making. Early in the day, your willpower is at its highest. You are more likely to choose discipline over comfort, and purpose over distraction. This leads to better choices with time, focus, and energy. As the day progresses, fatigue sets in and decisions become easier to avoid or delay. By taking care of important priorities early, you reduce the pressure later and protect yourself from poor decisions made out of exhaustion. Over time, the compound effect of strong mornings becomes undeniable. One good morning may not change your life, but hundreds of them will. Success is rarely the result of one dramatic action. It is built through consistent, ordinary discipline practiced daily. Morning is where that discipline is tested most honestly. There are no excuses, no audience, and no external pressure. Only your commitment to the person you want to become. When you win the morning, you do more than start the day right. You establish leadership over your life. You stop drifting and start directing. The day becomes a continuation of your values, instead of a series of reactions to circumstances. That is why those who master their mornings often appear calmer, more focused, and more successful. They are not lucky. They are intentional. Many people wake up each day waiting to feel motivated before they take action. They believe that once the feeling arrives, they will finally begin working on their goals. This way of thinking quietly delays progress and gives emotions too much authority. Motivation is unreliable because it depends on mood, comfort, and external circumstances. Discipline, on the other hand, does not negotiate. It moves you forward even when feelings are absent, and that is why discipline must come before motivation. Discipline in the morning is especially powerful because it sets the tone for how you handle yourself for the rest of the day. When you act with discipline early, getting up when you said you would, starting your day with intention, doing what needs to be done, you send a clear message to your mind. You are in control. This sense of control creates momentum, and momentum is what people often mistake for motivation. Waiting for motivation places your progress at the mercy of comfort. On days when you feel good, you act. On days when you feel tired, discouraged, or distracted, you delay. Over time, this inconsistency becomes a habit. Discipline breaks that pattern by making action a non-negotiable choice rather than an emotional decision. When you decide in advance what you will do each morning, you remove the need to debate with yourself. Discipline is not about being harsh or extreme. It is about being reliable. It is the ability to keep small promises to yourself consistently. When you wake up and follow through on simple commitments, whether it is waking up at a certain time, reading a few pages, or planning your day, you strengthen your self-respect. Each act of discipline builds trust between who you say you are and how you actually behave. Motivation often arrives after action, not before it. When you begin working, clarity increases. As clarity increases, confidence grows. That confidence creates enthusiasm. This sequence is often misunderstood. People think they need enthusiasm to start, when in reality they need to start in order to feel enthusiastic. Discipline initiates that process by getting you moving regardless of how you feel. The absence of discipline has a cost that many people do not see immediately. Each time you delay action because you do not feel motivated, you reinforce the habit of hesitation. That hesitation slowly erodes belief in yourself. Over time, goals feel heavier, tasks feel more overwhelming, and self-doubt increases. Discipline prevents this by keeping you engaged with your goals on a daily basis, even in small ways. Morning discipline is particularly effective because the mind is less cluttered. Later in the day, distractions multiply and energy declines. By practicing discipline early, you take advantage of your strongest mental state. You also reduce the pressure later in the day because important tasks are already underway or completed. This creates a sense of relief and control that further fuels motivation. Discipline also protects you from relying too much on external inspiration. While motivational content can be helpful, it cannot replace consistent action. Inspiration fades, but habits remain. When discipline becomes part of your identity, you no longer need to be convinced to act. You act because it is who you are. This shift from external motivation to internal discipline is what separates long-term success from temporary excitement. As discipline becomes routine, motivation becomes more frequent and more stable. You start to feel motivated not because circumstances are perfect, but because progress is visible. Progress is energizing. Seeing yourself move forward, even slowly, creates a deep sense of satisfaction. That satisfaction reinforces discipline, creating a powerful cycle of growth. By choosing discipline first, especially in the morning, you remove uncertainty from your day. You stop asking whether you feel like doing what matters, and start doing what matters because it matters. Over time, motivation stops being something you chase and becomes something you experience naturally as a result of disciplined action. Most people believe that life is changed by big decisions made at dramatic moments, but real transformation happens quietly, through small choices repeated day after day. The morning is where these choices are made most consistently, and although they may seem insignificant in the moment, they carry enormous long-term weight. Every small decision you make early in the day is a vote for the direction your life is heading. When you wake up, the first few choices feel harmless. Whether you get up immediately or stay in bed a little longer. Whether you think about your goals or reach for distraction. Whether you plan your day or let the day decide for you. None of these choices feel life-altering, yet over time they create patterns. Patterns become habits, and habits eventually shape your identity. The danger of small decisions is that their consequences are delayed. Skipping discipline today does not ruin your life tomorrow. Just as choosing discipline once does not instantly create success. This delay causes people to underestimate the impact of their behavior. But life keeps score quietly. Every small decision either moves you closer to strength and progress, or closer to comfort and stagnation. Morning decisions are especially powerful because they influence everything that follows. A distracted start makes it harder to focus later. A rushed beginning increases stress throughout the day. On the other hand, a thoughtful start improves clarity, patience, and energy. The direction you choose first tends to continue, not because the day forces it, but because your mindset has already been set. Small positive choices create momentum. When you complete one intentional action in the morning, it becomes easier to complete the next one. This momentum reduces resistance. Tasks feel lighter, decisions feel clearer, and effort feels more natural. Over time, this creates a sense of forward movement that builds confidence. You stop feeling stuck because you are constantly making progress. Even if it is slow, small negative choices also create momentum, but in the opposite direction. Procrastination leads to pressure. Pressure leads to stress. Stress leads to avoidance. This cycle often begins with one simple decision to delay or distract. What felt like a harmless choice slowly grows into a habit of postponement that affects every area of life. The cost is not paid immediately, but it is always paid eventually. One of the most powerful aspects of small morning decisions is that they are completely within your control. You may not control outcomes, opportunities, or circumstances, but you control how you begin your day. This gives you leverage. By choosing discipline in small ways early, you strengthen your sense of agency. You stop feeling like life is happening to you, and start feeling like you are participating in it deliberately. Small decisions also shape how you see yourself. Each time you follow through, even on something minor, you reinforce the belief that you are capable and reliable. Each time you avoid action, you reinforce doubt. Over time, these beliefs become deeply rooted. Success is often less about ability and more about identity. People act in alignment with who they believe they are, and that belief is built through daily choices. The power of small decisions lies in their consistency. One strong morning does not change your life, but a pattern of intentional mornings changes everything. Growth becomes inevitable when effort is applied regularly. This is why discipline does not need to be extreme. It needs to be sustainable. Simple actions, done daily, outperform intense efforts done occasionally. Morning choices are also a form of preparation. They prepare your mind, your emotions, and your focus for what lies ahead. When you begin the day with intention, challenges feel more manageable. You respond instead of react. This calm, prepared state is not accidental. It is the result of decisions made early, before pressure arrives. Over time, these small decisions accumulate into results that appear extraordinary to others. People may call it luck or talent, but in reality, it is consistency. It is the quiet discipline of choosing growth over comfort each morning. What you choose today may feel small, but repeated often enough, it becomes the foundation of the future you are building. The mind is most impressionable at the start of the day, yet this is when many people allow it to be flooded with noise, urgency, and outside influence. Before the day even begins, attention is handed over to messages, news, and endless information that has nothing to do with personal goals or growth. What enters the mind first often sets its direction, which is why protecting your mind early is one of the most important disciplines you can develop. In the morning, your thoughts are not yet crowded by problems or pressures. This mental freshness is a rare advantage. When you use it intentionally, you shape how you will interpret everything that follows. If the first thoughts of the day are reactive, scattered, or negative, the mind stays in that state. But if the first thoughts are calm, purposeful, and focused, clarity becomes the default. Protecting your mind does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means choosing what deserves your attention first. Every day, life will eventually demand your focus. Emails, tasks, and challenges will arrive whether you are ready or not. The question is whether you meet them with a prepared mind or a distracted one. Morning is the only time you can decide this in advance. What you expose your mind to early influences your emotional state. Negative information, comparison, and urgency create tension before the day has even begun. This tension reduces patience and increases reactivity. On the other hand, thoughtful input such as reading, reflection, or quiet planning strengthens emotional balance. You become less easily disturbed, because your inner state is already grounded. Protecting your mind early also sharpens decision-making. A focused mind makes better choices. When clarity is established in the morning, you are less likely to be pulled in multiple directions later. Priorities become clearer, and distractions lose their power. This is not because the day becomes easier, but because your ability to navigate it improves. Another overlooked benefit of mental protection is confidence. When you take time in the morning to reconnect with your goals, values, and purpose, you remind yourself who you are and where you are going. This reduces self-doubt. Confidence does not come from avoiding problems. It comes from being mentally prepared to face them. Morning clarity provides that preparation. Many people underestimate how quickly the mind can be influenced. A single negative interaction early in the day can shape mood and behavior for hours. By protecting your mind first, you reduce the impact of such moments. You respond with thought instead of emotion, because your inner foundation is already set. Protecting your mind also involves limiting unnecessary input. Not everything deserves your attention, especially early in the day. When you consume too much information too quickly, mental fatigue sets in before meaningful work even begins. Simplicity in the morning preserves mental energy for tasks that truly matter. This practice is not about rigid rules, but intentional boundaries. Even a short period of mental protection can have a lasting effect. A few minutes of quiet thinking, writing, or reading something meaningful can reset your entire outlook. These moments of intention accumulate, strengthening focus and emotional stability over time. Over days and weeks, protecting your mind early becomes a powerful habit. You begin to notice that stress decreases, patience increases, and productivity improves. You are no longer at the mercy of whatever appears first on a screen or in a conversation. Instead, you lead your own mental environment. When the mind is protected in the morning, the rest of the day becomes more manageable. Challenges still exist, but they no longer dominate your thoughts. You maintain perspective, make wiser decisions, and stay aligned with your goals. The mind, when guided early, becomes a tool rather than a battleground. Many people delay progress because they believe they must first create the perfect system, the perfect routine, or the perfect set of conditions. This mindset creates hesitation and unnecessary pressure. The truth is that success does not require perfection. It requires consistency. A simple routine repeated daily is far more powerful than an elaborate plan, followed only occasionally. Perfection often disguises itself as preparation. People spend time designing ideal schedules, researching endless methods, and waiting for the right moment to begin. In reality, this search for perfection is often fear in disguise. Fear of failing, fear of starting poorly, or fear of not living up to expectations. Consistency removes this pressure by allowing progress to be imperfect, but continuous. A consistent routine works because it reduces decision-making. When you know what you will do each morning, you eliminate internal debates. You don't waste energy asking whether you feel like it, or whether conditions are right. You simply act. This reliability creates momentum, and momentum is one of the most valuable forces in personal growth. Small, repeatable actions are easier to maintain than intense efforts. A routine that demands too much often collapses under stress or fatigue. A routine that is simple and realistic survives difficult days. This survival is what makes it powerful. Growth does not happen on your best days alone. It happens on ordinary days when effort feels minimal, but still matters. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Each time you show up, even in a small way, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. This self-trust becomes a foundation for confidence. Over time, you stop questioning whether you will follow through, because experience has already answered that question. Perfection creates a false standard. When people fall short of it, they often quit entirely. Consistency allows for flexibility. Missed days do not become failure, they become part of the process. You return to the routine without guilt or discouragement. This ability to continue despite imperfections is what sustains long-term progress. A simple morning routine practiced daily shapes identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who shows up, who acts with intention, and who values progress. Identity drives behavior more strongly than motivation. When consistency becomes part of who you are, effort feels natural rather than forced. Consistency also compounds. Each small action may seem insignificant, but together they create noticeable change. Reading a few pages daily leads to knowledge. Planning each morning leads to clarity. Moving a little each day leads to strength. These results appear slowly at first, but once they become visible, they reinforce the habit even further. Another advantage of consistency is resilience. Life is unpredictable, and routines will occasionally be disrupted. A consistent approach allows you to adapt without losing direction. Because the routine is simple, it is easier to restart. You do not need perfect conditions to continue, you only need commitment. Perfection demands too much attention. It focuses on flaws rather than progress. Consistency shifts attention to effort. You measure success by showing up, not by flawless execution. This mindset reduces stress and increases enjoyment. Growth becomes sustainable rather than exhausting. Over time, consistent action transforms potential into results. Many people have talent, ideas, and ambition, but few apply them regularly. Consistency bridges that gap. It turns intention into reality through steady effort. The morning routine does not need to be impressive. It needs to be dependable. When you commit to consistency over perfection, you free yourself from unnecessary pressure. Progress becomes steady, confidence grows naturally, and success becomes inevitable. The power lies not in doing everything right, but in doing something right every day. Character is not formed in moments of comfort or ease. It is shaped quietly, often invisibly, during the moments when effort feels difficult and motivation is low. Morning is where the shaping happens most honestly. There is no audience, no pressure from others, and no immediate reward. What you do in those early hours reveals the truth about your discipline and commitment. The mornings when you feel energized are easy. Anyone can act when enthusiasm is high and circumstances are favorable. But the mornings when you feel tired, discouraged, or uninspired are the ones that matter most. These moments test whether your actions are driven by feelings or by values. Choosing to show up anyway strengthens character, because it reinforces the idea that your behavior is guided by principle rather than comfort. Each time you act despite resistance, you strengthen self-respect. You prove to yourself that you are capable of doing hard things without external encouragement. This self-respect becomes a source of quiet confidence. You no longer rely on praise or recognition, because you know what you are capable of when no one is watching. Morning discipline builds integrity. Integrity is not about public behavior. It is about private standards. When you keep commitments that only you know about, you align your actions with your values. This alignment creates inner stability. You are less likely to be shaken by challenges, because your foundation is solid. Character is built through repetition. One difficult morning does not define you, but many of them shape who you become. Each time you choose effort over ease, you reinforce a pattern of resilience. Over time, this pattern becomes part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, even when it is uncomfortable. These moments of resistance also develop emotional strength. When you learn to act without waiting for the right mood, emotions lose their control over your behavior. You respond with intention rather than reaction. This emotional maturity is a powerful advantage in every area of life, from work to relationships. Morning challenges also teach humility. You realize that progress is not always dramatic or exciting. Often, it is quiet and repetitive. Embracing this reality prevents frustration and impatience. You focus on effort rather than outcome, understanding that growth happens gradually. Another important aspect of character building mornings is resilience. Life will present setbacks, delays, and disappointments. When you regularly practice discipline in small ways, you become better equipped to handle larger challenges. The habit of showing up, even when it is hard, transfers to other areas of life. Character formed in the morning also influences how you handle success. When discipline is part of your identity, success does not lead to complacency. You continue to act with purpose, because effort is no longer dependent on external results. This stability prevents extremes of overconfidence or discouragement. Over time, these early efforts create inner strength that others can sense. It is not loud or showy, but it is steady. People who have developed character through discipline often appear calm under pressure and focused in uncertainty. This is not accidental. It is the result of countless mornings where effort was chosen over comfort. The true value of morning discipline lies in who it turns you into. Long before it produces visible results, it produces internal growth. Strength, reliability, and resilience are built silently, one morning at a time. Tomorrow morning will arrive whether you are ready or not. The question is simple: will you rise as the person you want to become, or repeat the habits that keep you stuck? Choose discipline once, and you choose a stronger life, one morning at a time.